Aleinu. The Shabbat 770. There's nothing like 770. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, being in the washing machine. You just have to be careful. From my own personal experience of being in the washing machine, making a koidim, and not keeping my tzitzis in my pants or in my pocket, that the tzitzis was left on the floor. And we're zeicha that in the 770 you could come out of shul with tzitzis. You could go in clean, you come out dirty. It's an amazing washing machine. If you need a pair of shoes, you'll find one. If you find somebody else's hat, it fits you. Everything is gewaldig. Special nest of Rosh Hashanah, in Kippur, Simchas Torah. So I'm there and my tzitzis pashit got ripped. And you're in shul, you don't want to leave. The guy tells you, stay. Daven, you'll figure out after, don't move. Dalaram is a hin hair. I pashit didn't feel comfortable. I went to one of my brothers, Yo Chassid, give me my tzitzis. My mazel is, I live literally 30 seconds away from 770. I hand ahead, I get my tzitzis. Later during the day, nach habacher, a chaver meine, he flew into the Rebbe, Australia, hand ahead. He was dorming in all the tight. He's like, could you get me my tzitzis from the dorm? I tell him, Daiganisht. I went, I got him a pair of tzitzis. So a tip of advice, please tuck your tzitzis or make sure it doesn't get ripped. V'chulu. This week's parsha, from after and on, the end of the parsha was zeicha that it speaks about tzitzis. Cover a few basic inyanim on tzitzis. We're going to open up. I'm going to look through and go through Tzitzt Shulchan Aruch, Tsiman Tes, which speaks about tzitzis. Starts off in Tsiman Tes, Tzitzt Shulchan Aruch. We just want to be madgish over here that people make a big mistake, or they don't know that the whole idea of tzitzis is literally the strings. This is called tzitzis. This is tzitzis. This is the beged. This is the kanaf ha-beged. So tzitzis is this. These strings are called tzitzis. Tsiman of strings, a tsiman of tzitzis. We find in the beginning of Tzitzt Shulchan Aruch, he says the Torah akosov shkola v'tala kol ha-Torah kula shenemar u'reisim oisis chartem s'kom tzavaya. The whole Torah, if you literally want to translate shkola, if you would scale, if you would weigh tzitzis, or if you would depend tzitzis, the whole entire Torah is dependent and weighed on the idea of tzitzis. It has a great schos of tzitzis. Like it says in the Torah, u'reisim oisai, and you will see the tzitzis, u'zachartem, you remember, it's called mitzvahs havaya, all the mitzvahs of the Eibishter. And he goes and he explains, the tzitzis is begematria taf reish, which is 600. How many strings do you have? You have 4 strings. You have the 5 kshadim, which be'etzim the 4 strings. If you fold it, comes out to 8. And then you have the 5 kshadim. So he says with the taf reish, which is 600. Then you have the 8 chotim. And you have the 5 kshadim. So together you have tar yag. When you see the tar yag, when you see the tzitzis, all together you have tar yag. This is what it says in halacha. In the beginning of the Sikha of the Rebbe, in Tavshin and Aleph, in Shlach, in the Hara 13, Hara Echad, Hara 1, it's Hara 13, but the gematria of 13 is Echad. He brings down from Pirush Rashi, which is miyusad on Reb Moshe Hadarshan, that the Mekoshesh Eitzim, which was Mechal Shabbos, is next to Avodah Zarah. To tell you, anyone that's Mechal Shabbos is Kilu Oved Avodah Zarah. And he tells you over here, he brings down from the Sefer of Ezra, the Rebbe writes in the Shulchan Aruch and Nehemiah, that this week's parsha He's coming after the Parsha of Matan Torah to tell you that anybody that's nizar, is careful in tzitzis, is as if he's milkaim the whole Torah, and he brings the same lashon shkula. It is like what we brought down over here. It's weighed. It's talui all the mitzvahs. So there's the idea of what Isim say. The pasuk itself gives you a limud drash. Then you have also this idea what the Rebbe brings down from Nehemiah, that this week's parsha comes connection to Matan Torah the same way the Mekosha Sheitzim is connected to Shabbos and Avodah Zarah. So anyone that's Mechal Shabbos is like Avodah Zarah. Anyone that keeps mitzvah tzitzis is b'makayim the whole Torah, and the whole Torah is dependent on this idea of tzitzis, like we see here with the Isim Oisai. So again, the idea of Taf Reish is 600, 8 strings, and 5 ksharim together you have Tariyah. Anytime a person is wearing the tzitzis, anytime, the whole time, a person is wearing the tzitzis, he's being makayim another mitzvah, because the beged, which has 4 corners, is chayv b'tzitzis. Kozman he's wearing the tzitzis, he's being makayim a mitzvah from the Eibishter. Tells you over here that you have to be careful, or the hiddur is dafke from tzemer reichlim lavon. It should be from tzemer reichlim. Reichlim is the nekeva of a keves. Mechlalim, sheep, there are 4 different species, if you want to call it like that. There's the zachar and the nekeva, the keves and the rachel. There's the tala and the talia. So you have 4 different ideas. So the ikad Indian of tzitzis should be from the rachel of, which is the nekeva of the keves, which is tzemer, which is wool, lavon, white wool from the nekeva, the rachela. Now, that's a basic idea. We're going to go a little bit, we're going to speak about this idea of tzitzis at nighttime. Is there a chiyuv of tzitzis at night? Minat Torah, there is no chiyuv. The tzitzis, the mitzvah is dafke at daytime. The bracha could only be said by daytime with with clean hands. However, first of all, the Harizal writes, in order for there not to be unikas achitzayni, to keep himself, to watch himself at night, the Harizal writes he should wear tzitzis. Not only that, there's another idea that the Harizal writes. The whole idea of kozman wearing tzitzis should be mekayim a mitzvah. He brings down the raya from David HaMelech, which we know the story in Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. When David HaMelech went to the Beis HaMerachot, to the bathhouse, he used the lashon arum. He called a mitzvah. He is without any mitzvahs. And he had the nechama that he had a milah with him, and he told the Eibush that he felt this nechama that he had a mitzvah with him. So the Gemara brings down, and the Harizal brings down from the Gemara, that when he went to sleep, he didn't say this. From here's a raya that David HaMelech went to sleep with tzitzis. It's the only time that it's possible that it's shayach that a person shouldn't be wearing tzitzis is dafka in the Beis HaMerachot, when he goes to take a shower in the bathhouse. It's another thing that Harizal brings down from the Gemara. Another thing is the idea that when somebody wakes up in the morning, the kula alma is chai b'tzitzis from the time of Mishayakir. So the second he wakes up in the morning, his hands are tummy. He can't go dal ramis, and if he has to wash his hands, he's betumah, he can't move. So the nekuda is that he should wake up, he's already wearing the tzitzis. He shouldn't be over even a half a second, a split second without tzitzis. The Alter Rebbe brings down also this idea of tzitzis, also from the Harizal. In the Shara Kavonis for davening in the Maidiv and Drush, the first Drush, he says that a person should not come and, a person is wearing tzitzis, he shouldn't go and take off his tzitzis. There's no idea that a person should come and be medayik here to take off his tzitzis. It's important that a person should be wearing tzitzis kozman. He's wearing the tzitzis, he shouldn't come and take it off. And Befrad, the Alter Rebbe says there could be that sometimes people go to sleep while while the chiyuv is still on, in the daytime or whatever it is, there's still chiyuv b'tzitzis. So you shouldn't go to sleep and take off the tzitzis, because right now he's chayav b'tzitzis. Or even if he's not chayav right now b'tzitzis, he's going to wake up in a time that he's mechuyev in tzitzis. And a person shouldn't be medayik and mahadir to go and take off his tzitzis. So you have the Arizal, which the Magen Avram brings it down, Lema'aseh in the Shari Tshuva, Tsiman Chaf Aleph, which a Tsiman to remember, Chaf Aleph in the Shari Tshuva, and also the Gemara in Sanhedrin is also Chaf Aleph. And he brings down from here that it's a Chiyuv Gam Balayla. You have the Rosh, which the Rosh says that any ksus, any beged, yoim, is chayiv b'tzitzis balayla. The ksus yoim, the beged, the tzitzis that we wear in the daytime, turned into beged, the ksus yoim. And the ksus yoim, when we wear it in the nighttime, it's chayiv b'tzitzis. So according to the Rosh, tzitzis that you wear in the daytime is chayiv b'tzitzis at nighttime. It's a ksus yoim which is chayiv tzitzis by night. Now, the shear of the beged, the actual beged of tzitzis, he brings it down. He continues in the first halacha in Tzitzt halacha aleph. There's three shittis of the shear beged of tzitzis: la'irach and la'reichav, to the length and the width. So, the first shitta in Tzitzt you have over here the reichav of the tzitzis, and then you have the eirach of the tzitzis. The first shitta is like this. The reichav of the tzitzis should be a half an amma. A half an amma by 3/4 of an amma. It's good to be mitzayin that they go according to where from where the shoulder is till the bottom. 3/4 of an amma by a half an amma. The second shita in the first halacha is an amma al amma, again also from the shoulder area. An amma from here to the bottom, lo'irich and lo'reicha. The Alter Rebbe is machmir, and the Alter Rebbe says an amma from the base of tzavor, from the neck, from here to the bottom, lo'irich and lo'reicha, you're going to have an amma al amma from the base of tzavor. So he says there should be at least 2 amas from the base of tzavor on each side. Altogether, you have more than 2 amas, but from the base of tzavor in the front and the base of tzavor in the back, there should be amma al amma. And he says that katan shegiya lechinuch, from the age of 6, you could be soymich on the second opinion of a beged for a katan shegiya lechinuch al amma. That's what the Alter Rebbe writes. He also mentions that the tzitzis, Mashenk in the Shulchan Aruch argues, but the Alter Rebbe says that the side of the tzitzis, there shouldn't be any clips or anything sewed. It should be totally open, legamri. The side of the tzitzis should be open, it shouldn't be closed. There's this idea that a person knows who made his tzitzis, like a Sefer Torah and a mezuzah, and he knows that everything was made l'shem tzitzis, and Yerushalayim did it from the combing of the hair of the sheep till the end. Everything was made l'shem mehuded the tzitzis, and Yerushalayim did it. There's a interesting scenario, and he says over here that למעשה להלכה, the tzitzis, the strings have to be the same material as the beged. So you shouldn't have the beged made out of one material, cotton, wool, and the tzitzis made out of something else. He says shesi or erev, if it's woven one way with, he brings down flax, pishton, and in the beged, in the actual beged, there's flax and temer and wool. Shesi or erev, there's a problem. So he gives you an eitzah. He says that sometimes people on the corner put a beged of oir, of leather. Now the Rebbe says Yireh Shamayim wouldn't wear, b'chalal, he wouldn't touch, he wouldn't wear such a beged. And of course, he wouldn't make a brach on it. And if somebody wants to make a brach on such a beged, he shouldn't. He should make a brach on a different beged. And this is according to the Shulchan Aruch. A person wouldn't wear such a beged. But according to the Shulchan Aruch, a person should make a brach on a beged which doesn't have a suffix in it. And then he can put on the tzitzis. It's interesting to know that also by shchit, if there's a suffix in a behem, if you make a bracha or not, there's a shayla, you should be mahadar after a different behem or oif or something else to make a bracha on that, and then you could shecht the Indian that has a suffix. The same thing would be by tzitzis if there's a suffix in a beged and the other beged doesn't have a suffix. So here you make a bracha on something which bevadi doesn't have a suffix. However, if the tzitzis are made out of meshi, so people want to be makil if the tzitzis are made out of silk. But however, the tzitzis and the beged should be one material. You shouldn't mix it. And again, Yireh Shamayim wouldn't wear it, you wouldn't make a bracha on it. The beged in the corner, there's two nekavim, there's two holes, and we call it a tzedeh. There's the two holes in the beged, one next to each other. Mashengi Mayatalis, there's one hole. The two holes should be in a shir of agudol. Now, the klal b'chlal in halacha, mefrat here by the idea of tzitzis, the shir of agudol. It's interesting to know, to be madgish. When we say a shir agudol, it's where the nail is. This part, just this part, this thick part from here to here, this is a shir agudol. So the two nekavim should be in a shir agudol. In the shir of agodol, they're both in the shir of agodol, and also the first kesher has to be also in the shir of agodol. It has to be mamish, touching the beged. It shouldn't be far away from the neked. The whole tzitzis has to be yud. Here is 8 agodlin. And here is 4 agudlin together. You have yud beis agudlin. That's me ikradin, the shir of the tzitzis altogether. There's a few interesting cases of gedilim tasel chatasel lemina osui. The idea of putting tzitzis on a beged. The whole idea that Torah says tasa, it should be made lemina osui, and it shouldn't be made. It shouldn't be there by itself. So there are a few interesting examples. One of them would be the example of, he brings down, continuing from the idea of the two holes, that from the svasa beged, bein la'oirech and bein la'roichav, it has to be in 3 agudlin. You have 1, 2, 3. The two holes have to be, again, if you measure 3 agudlim, 1, 2, 3, it has to be la'irach and la'reichav. It has to be in the 3 gudlin. What happened if it is higher than the 3 gudlin? I connected the tzitzis, and then I made a hole. I ripped or I pulled it down. It wasn't in the right place. It was higher than the place. It was a little over here, a little over here, a little over here, whatever it was. It wasn't 3 agudin, la'irach and la'reichav in the corners. And I pulled it down and it came into the place of the tzitzis after I tied it. This is one example of tasav leimin also. It wasn't in a place which is mechuyev in tzitzis. It was too high. And all of a sudden now, while the tzitzis is already made, I pulled it. In 1 second it came into the shear. It is puzzle. It's not tzitzis. Masha'enki. B'shasak shira, when I tied the tzitzis, if it was in the right place, and after that it ripped, this tzitzis, the 2 holes came bigger. The halacha is it's kosher until a gudel to the kanaf. Mamish, if it's lower than a gudel, it's a problem. But up until a gudel, it's kosher, it's fine, because the ikra din is b'shas ma'isa, the tzitzis was made, it was put in the right place. So that's one example of tasav leimin osui. Another example is, like we mentioned earlier, if you're in Simchas Torah in 770, whatever it is, and the whole thing just pops out, somebody stepped on it or whatever it is, and you want to take this whole thing and just sew it back, it's again tzitz v'leimin also. You have to sew this hole, open all the tzitzis up, and then retie it. It's another case. Another case would be if you have a half a beged. We're going to mention it later. We'll mention it already now. You have a very big talus. You divide it in half to clean or whatever it is. One side is chai b'tzitzis, one side is not chai b'tzitzis. And you connect it. It's again tzitz v'leimin also. So what do you have to do? You have to take off the tzitzis of the side which is not chai b'tzitzis. Then you could connect the smaller part of the beged and then put the two tzitzis on that side. A fourth case of tzitz v'leimin also is if you take all the 4 strings, you stick it into one hole, you take it out, you stick it into the other hole, you tie with the shamish, you do all the tzitzis, and then at the end you just cut, you open up all from the 4, you make it 8. Again, that's tzitz v'leimin also. There are 4 examples of tzitz v'leimin also. You have to be careful again that it should be al kanaf, not too high, not too low. It's very important that you have sometimes some tzitzis over here with cotton balls or stuff coming out. It's a suffix. למעשה, it's a suffix. If those could be together, if you could consider them in the kanaf or not. So it's important that just this place, you should cut it off, or it shouldn't have. From here, it's not a problem, but from here, it is a problem. If you have the white stuff coming out, it's a suffix, la halacha, למעשה, what to do or not, if it's considered beged or not. Another interesting here is, in the strings, the actual string, according to the Shulchan Aruch, has to have 4 agudlin. The shear of the actual string has to have 4 agudlin. The Alter Rebbe is making, the Alter Rebbe says it could be less than 4 agudlin. It could be kedei aniva, which be'inyan would read to make a knot to surround your finger, even if the string, which you would have to hold it, even if the string you don't have enough to put it in, but kedei aniva according to the Alter Rebbe is good enough. So he mentions if it starts opening up, if the tzitz sometimes starts opening up, Kozman there is 4 agudlin, or according to Alter Rebbe even less. Just kedei aniva, the tzitz is kosher. There's the idea of being careful in the tzitz kozman to make sure that it's muhoder, it's clean. And they say that people have a bunch of pairs of clothes. When it comes to tzitzis, all of a sudden they have one pair of tzitzis. They're not worried that it's dirty, it's smelly, it's small. They're not careful on tzitzis. Tzitzis b'chalal should be mehoder, should be careful. And the halacha is that if a person, for example, wants to take off the tzitzis and to put on new tzitzis, so say if the tzitzis are kosher that he's taking off, he wants to put on new ones, he wants to put on cleaner ones, he's allowed to, he's mutter and adrab, it's better if he does. And even if the tzitzis are puzzle, which of course you have to take it off and put a new tzitzis. Again, the tzitzis, the strings, you can't be mavaza them, you have to put them in shemis, or people, you want to use them for a bookmark, for a sefer, whatever it may be, but again, you can't be mavaza the tzitzis. The tzitzis, when you connect it and you put the knots, part of the idea of Re'isim Oisi is that the tzitzis should be on the outside of the beged, not on the inside. It should not be sticking out on the outside. It's part of the idea of Re'isim Oisi Uzecharte. Now, he mentions in halacha, hey, how exactly we make the tzitzis, how it's split up, how the ksharim are made, and whatever it may be. So you have over here 2 knots. Over here you have 7 chulias. Over here you have 8. Here you have 11. Here you have 13. Between each one, you have 2 knots. When you make the knots, and Mechlal calls mine, you're making the tzitzis, it's important to say l'shem it's a tzitzis u'be'ikr when you're making the kshira of the knots. The cholias, the way it's split up, And again, the hiddur would be if it would be each one of them are exactly a shir of agodol. It's more mohoder. If each one, even the smallest one to the biggest one, is a shir of a agodol. Here it is 13. If you could see, there's 3, 3, and 1, the shir of 7. It starts with 3, 3, and 1. It's a sim that my father gave me to always remember when you make tzitzis. The next one starts with 2 to be masham, to continue from this one that finished off with just 1. This one has 2 string, 2 chulyas. And then again, 3, 3. So the set of 3 starts here. It's like a sandwich. Over here it finishes. So then the next one also starts with 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, which is 11. Then you have 1 to be masham from this one. And then again you have 3, 3, 3, 3. 4 times 3. The way it's mecholek is 2 knots, 7, 2 knots, 8, 2 knots, 11, 2 knots, 13, 2 knots. It's interesting to know that in Hilchos Shabbos, in the Beis HaMikdash, also, it's not mavus on something, but it's mavur somewhere. And it's ulay shloimar. It's a good thing to mention it. B'chlal, this whole idea together is 39. All the cholyos together is 39. So there's the idea that the malachs in the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan were mecholek also into 4 different gedarim. La'erech. There's the idea he brings down of boina, which is 7, 8, which is the idea of writing, the polis of writing, 11 to make afiyah, bread, v'chulu. 13, any malacha that would be made for beged, for clothes. Also, he was mechalik it into 4 different gedarim. And a zeicher, remembrance, connected the idea of tzitzis. Also, there's the 4, also masudar al pi that. The chiyuv of checking tzitzis every single day before putting on the tzitzis is very important, and you're mechuyev to do so. Even on Shabbos, and even if you don't have another tzitzis, you don't have another beged. In the end of the Siman, he brings down that you come to shul and you're with your tzitzis, and you didn't know before Shabbos, and there's a problem, there's something wrong over there with the tzitzis. You could put on the tzitzis in shul, and the Torah cares about you, that a person shouldn't be embarrassed in the einei abriyus in front of other people, and he can wear the tzitzis in shul, this talis, even though there's a shayla, there's a problem. Dafke, if he didn't know about this before Shabbos, and he couldn't do anything about it, because he's in shul, and he's there, and this is his talis, and he has nothing else to do, then he should check. And he finds that there's something wrong. He's allowed to put on the tzitzis without a bracha. They say the story with the Rebbe by the Seder, Pesach, by the Rebbe Rayatz's apartment, that a person told somebody, shruya, you're dipping the matzah in the wine or the grape juice, and he made the person embarrassed. The Rebbe told him, this is best that as the matzah werden right, wie sein panim werden right. It's better that the matzah should be red in his face. So we find this idea that the Torah lets people do an inyan that they shouldn't be embarrassed. They say it's better that somebody should blush, that somebody else shouldn't bleed. But there's this idea over here that the Torah cares about a person, that he shouldn't be embarrassed. Fine. So this is a brain. There's this idea of the tzitzis was already checked, so then you don't need to check it. If you know somebody checked it, then you could still make a bracha on it. If he brings down that through him checking the tzitzis, he's going to ma'akiv himself from davening, he's going to come late to shul, he's not going to be able to daven with the minyan. So he could put on the tzitzis without checking it. On Shabbos, you have to be careful that if the strings are connected, he shouldn't pull to separate the tzitzis, and he shouldn't tighten the kesher, the knots. On Shabbos, it is a problem to do so. Every single mitzvah that a person does has to be oiver le'asiyosei. Again, oiver le'asiyosei. Before he does it, he has to make the bracha, the kavanah, like every single mitzvah, with his yadayim nekiyim, clean hands, standing. And he tells you the seder how he puts on the tzitzis. He puts on the tzitzis, he puts it on his head till the mouth, and then he does the atifas yishmaelim. He holds the baguette, he puts the left and then the right chesed over gvura, he holds it over there. Kedei hiluch arba mil, in time dalar amis, not arba mil, arba amais. He says the mayakar, and then he puts on the talus. Interesting to know, stam that they say Reb Leivik's talus didn't have the black lines. The Rebbe Dayatz's talus had the black lines. So the Rebbe, in order not to be machalik and to do both, the Rebbe's talus in the Mini Chabad is to have the black lines, but to tuck it in the back, that it shouldn't be seen. Azay tut unser Rebbe Mini Chabad. The chiyuv of tzitzis, like we mentioned, is dafka by the daytime, not at nighttime. V'lochein, you can't make a bracha on tzitzis at nighttime. If a person's in a situation that he wasn't able to make a bracha on the tzitzis, his hands weren't clean or whatever it may be, the place it was that he wasn't able to make a bracha because it was smelly, whatever it may be. When he comes to a place that he could make the bracha, or he could wash his hands, he should do so, and then he should make the bracha. Somebody that puts on a talus, made a bracha, he came to shul, and he had in mind that he's going to take it off and put it on later. When he puts it on again later, he doesn't have to make a bracha. However, if he put it on, he didn't have in mind that he's going to take it off, he is chayiv to make a bracha, even if he took it off and a second later he wants to put it on. Two extremes. He put it on having in mind to put it on again, he put it on not having in mind to put it on again, then he does have to make a bracha l'gulama. Putting it on stam, he's in the middle of davening, he has to go run somewhere, whatever it may be, do his tzarachim, whatever it may be. So minadin, he does not have to make a bracha again. Why? Because he's wearing on him a talus cotton the whole time. So this is dafki. He brings out this idea that a person's he's wearing on him a talus cotton as if he's wearing the talus the whole time, and he doesn't have to make a bracha when he comes back to put it on the tzitzis, the talus again. Now, a person is davening and his talus falls. So Kozman, even if a little bit of the talus is on him, he doesn't have to make a bracha. If the talus falls off totally, this is the idea of Hesach Hadas, he didn't have it in mind, he wasn't expecting this, and even if he's holding the tzitzis